Hello and welcome to day 304 of Dungeon 23, the series where we make a room of a mega dungeon every day for a year. Coming out a little bit later today because I got lazy and had other stuff to do. So this is kind of a Halloween special a little bit. I was gonna make a Halloween video on its own about having famous creepypastas in Dungeons and Dragons. I'll still probably do that idea, just probably not for Halloween because I just ran out of time. But we do have a Halloween thing today. That is the Great Pumpkin, like from the Charlie Brown thing. It is a giant plant. Well, technically huge, but this guy will trade Vegapygmy followers in exchange for 200 gold pieces per follower. And these ones do not have the regeneration trait, and this guy could summon them at will, although it's on a recharge. But that's for in combat. I do have a character sheet which I'll show in a little bit, but this is basically what he does. He'll sell the party these little plant follower guys who, unlike their normal counterparts, don't regenerate. So if they die because they have very low AC and HP, then the party's going to need to buy more of them. And if killed, the Great Pumpkin has 2d4 plus 1 seeds inside of it. Eating one will cause a random effect, and you just roll a d20. On a 20 to 13, you could just cast a Mage Hand at will for one day, the entirety of the day, and the Mage Hand is invisible because this pumpkin is psionic, which we'll get into when we actually look at its stat sheet. 12 to 7, you could cast Levitate at will for an hour, which means you could use it on yourself or something else, and then if the concentration breaks, you could still recast it again, but for 1 hour. On a 6 to 2, you could cast Telekinesis at will for 10 minutes. Again, if your concentration breaks, you could recast it for 10 minutes, but once it's up, it's done. Really good, but a low chance of it happening. And if you roll a 1, you are polymorphed into a pumpkin until dispelled. So, 5% chance of basically dying. Probably not the best idea to take them. Maybe the party could grind them up and use them to make some kind of potion of telekinesis or levitation or flight or something like that. I don't know, it depends on what the party wants to do. And that is basically how this guy behaves and what he does. Now let's hop over to the stat sheet and I'll explain a little bit further about how he functions. So here we have the stat block of the guy. He is, of course, the Great Pumpkin, named after the fictional thing from Charlie Brown, because it's funny and it's Halloween related. It is a huge plant and is unlined because I think making it neutral is a bit too... I already talked about alignment before, I'm not going to go into it, it's just alignment doesn't matter for this part. He's going to trade at a party and he won't attack them outright, but he'll defend himself if he gets attacked. Low armor class and low dex because it's a giant pumpkin. It doesn't really have arms or legs, it can't really move around. Decent strength, even though it can't really move. It can move 5 feet, but just very, very slowly. Really high con of +5, and then intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are +13 across the board for 17. +3 for proficiency bonus. Saves are intelligence and charisma. It is immune to blind, charm, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, and prone. It's skilled in perception, has blind sight 60 feet, blind beyond that radius, and passive perception of 16. And has telepathy for 120 feet, because it obviously doesn't have a mouth. Can't really talk, but it is psionic, so its spellcasting ability is intelligence, because that's what psionics use, for a 14 DC with a +6 to hit, which I don't think it actually uses to hits. I think it's all saves for spells. And obviously, because it's psionics and innate casting, it could cast the spells without using components, which is good because it doesn't really have verbal or semantic, because it doesn't have a mouth nor a hands to make gestures. It could cast detect thoughts and telekinesis at will, so it's very powerful at reading minds and like moving things around. It could possibly move itself, but it'd have to like focus on it. It doesn't want to drop itself because it'll take damage, and that's not good. And 3 times a day, it could either cast Dominate Monster or Tasha's Mind Whip. It could cast Dominate Monster twice and Mind Whip once, or Mind Whip 3 times, or Mind Whip twice and Dominate Monster once. But it's only 3 times before it gets exhausted and all tuckered out. And it's only action because it can't really do anything melee. Also, 120 HP, I don't know if I mentioned that. But because it doesn't really have arms or legs or anything, it can't really like slam into stuff. So its only action is to summon these Vegapygmies, which it summons 1d6 plus 1 of them on a point you can see within 30 feet of it. Why up to 7? Because these guys are really weak, low HP, low AC, fodder, and if the party all gangs up on the pumpkin, then it's going to be quite easy to destroy him. And really low dex saves, so a fireball will just wipe them out. Obviously, when summoned this way, they're loyal, and they do not have their generation trait, as I've said earlier, with the other section. Basically the same things that are summoned by him to sell to the party, although those ones are more so loyal to the party. Although I can't imagine that if they bought a bunch of them and then said attack the Great Pumpkin that they would, because it's basically just like they're willed to follow the party by it, so yeah. And that is basically it. A Halloween monster for a Halloween episode. If you liked it, then like it. If you want to see more goofy stuff, maybe we'll have a giant turkey for Thanksgiving. Want to see that crazy stuff, then subscribe. If you have suggestions, put them in the comment section, because that'd be greatly appreciated. And yeah, happy Halloween, and thanks for watching and or listening. I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.